early train to slip away from town, while Frank had worked a miracle to turn the world around. A clever little gadget from the Midlands branch was sent, an agitator adjuster of a curious intent. They tested it on plant pots, they tried it on the cat, and then they stepped inside the frame to see where they were at. A three-dimensional copier to duplicate the soul, to make a perfect replica, complete and stable whole. But as they pushed the button, a tiny fracture grew and split the very river of the seconds right in two. One caught the early carriage, the other missed the train. A 10-minute discrepancy inside the spinning brain. And home they walked to dining rooms with casserole for two, but found their startled wives were staring, wondering who is who. For Paul showering upstairs and singing out his song, while Paul was standing in the hall declaring nothing's wrong. A double vision in the house, a severe case of the mind, where two identical husbands are impossible to find. Oh, spin the dials and split the stream, the copy has begun. Weave the seconds of the clock before the day is done. A double of your shadow, one echo in the room. But tick-tock, the seconds count toward a silent doom. Is it a trick of mirrors or a fracture in the sky? For no one knows which husband is the shadow or the spy. In the local duck and partridge, the barman poured around, while four identical gentlemen sat pacing on the ground. They argued over slippers, they counted every sprout, calculating mathematical equations of the doubt. But Frank had called the office and learned the chilling flaw. The copy is unstable by a harsh atomic law. 3 hours and 27 minutes is the average run before the atoms rearrange under the setting sun. They hurried to the parlor to play a hand of bridge, while tension stood as frozen as the ice inside the fridge. They cut the cards for dealing, they threw the 10 of hearts, but as the bidding opened, the illusion fell apart. The fingers started fading, the cards fell through the hand, a slowly growing transparency that no one could command. I'll miss you, whispered copy Frank, dissolving into air, leaving only empty slippers and a silent vacant chair. Don't worry, cried the other Paul, the real ones will return, and all of this will fade away like coal within the urn. But then he looked down at his sleeve and saw the table shine. The light was passing through his chest in a revealing line. With 15 seconds left to speak, he turned to say goodbye. I love you, Faye, I always did, he whispered with a sigh. The implosion shook the teacup, the molecules did clear, and both the faded duplicates did softly disappear. The real husbands burst inside, returned watch two living souls collapse into the deep. Oh, spin the dials and split the stream, the copy has begun. Leave the seconds of the clock before the day is done. A double of your shadow, an echo in the room. But tick-tock, the seconds count toward a silent doom. Is it a trick of mirrors or a fracture in the sky? For no one knows which husband is the shadow or the spy. Hello, darling, I'm back. The real Paul and Frank freeze as the screen slowly fades to black, leaving the final ticking sound to stop on the stroke of exactly